Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only Cardinal podcast more hittable than an Albert Pujols fastball. My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Ben Smorka.
Hi, everybody.
And this week, we are talking about the resurgent Cardinal offense, some health updates on some injured Cardinal players. We're going to talk about the ideal St. Louis experience and some news and notes from around the league. If you have an idea for the opening joke, tweet us at Talk About Birds. Well, Ben, we're back. We survived our fishing trip from that we talked about last week. There's peaks and valleys, successes, failures. We talked last week about just how incompetent we were last time. On just like a human existing in the world level. And I would say, at least in the context of the fishing trip weekend, this year we saw some improvement, right?
Yeah.
We spent the majority of our fishing trip actually fishing this time.
That is very true.
Yeah, I think that was an improvement, and it's good to see improvement, right? Better is good.
Last year, we had a time where we all got in the boat and we were like, okay, we're going to go grab some gas for the boat before we go fishing, and nobody had their wallet on them. This time, that didn't happen. So that objectively is an upgrade over last time.
Yeah, we executed the plan of fishing, of performing the act of fishing.
Yes,
far more successfully this year than last. So I think, kudos all around. Now, from a results standpoint, still some room to grow. We did about as good as we did last time, which is to say bottom, like literally last place once again. There were four of us this time in our little group, and there were 16 people, and we got 12th, 13th, 14th, or 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th place. So,
what place did I get, Nate? What place did I get? I think that needs to be recognized.
You were the 13th.
Yes,
13th
best
place.
of the worst. And I will take that, honestly. That's a badge of pride. I will, a feather in my cap that I will be reminding you for the rest of the year, I guess, until next year's fishing tournament.
Yeah, well, I'm not too worried about that because it was still bad. We all just did bad. So.
I caught a fish, and we were like, "Oh wow!" To remind people, it's a crappie fishing tournament. You only can catch crappie. There's a limit. All these things, and it's a quantity game, really. And we all thought I caught this really nice fish, and we go to measure it, and one of the dads that are there that know way more than we know, as soon as he looks at it, he goes, "That's not a crappie. That's a bass. This doesn't count for the tournament."
Yeah, we're like, "Oh shit!" That was the one. We were like, "All right, we know we're not going to win on like total weight, but there's like a big fish element," and we're like, "All right, our boat has a contender." And then when we get there, that's not a crappie. Deflating.
It wasn't even funny to him. He was just like, "Yeah, no, not this," and then kind of like tossed it to the side and then measured the rest of the fish.
They just threw it in the lake.
Yeah,
and we're like, there goes any shot that we had at representation on the leaderboard. But like I said, it was an improvement, even though our standing did not improve at all. Our process improved, and I'm a big process over results guy.
100%.
And so, I think we're the Tyler O'Neill of this fishing trip. You know what I mean?
Stick with us. Eventually, we'll pay off.
Yeah.
The thing is, I'm not sure we're ever going to put up the kind of numbers that Tyler put up last year. I'm
But we
thinking back
certainly
to
do it for the boys.
we do it for the boys, that's for sure. I was
Yeah.
just thinking about you're
Yeah.
talking about the process, and there was definitely a time on day 2 where Jake and I were fishing together, and he, real swung back to cast and caught himself in the back of the neck with his lure. Um, so I think like we can pat ourselves on the back pretty hard, and I'm definitely with you, Nate. It's all about the process, and we have the groundwork to be successful going forward.
Hmm.
But there's room for improvement.
There's definitely room for improvement. I got a treble hook caught in uh, a rope and my finger at the same time.
Yeah,
There's
the
so
amount
many
of
tiny
nicks and
cuts.
scratches and cuts I would come back from this trip
Yeah.
with, like my hands look like I've actually worked outside or something. It's
Yeah.
pathetic.
Yeah. So thank you to all of you who showed your support for us in this in this tournament. It was again could have I think it was an improvement even if it was ultimately not successful.
I would wager that as a group we ate the most breakfast burritos of
That for
the rest of
sure.
the party, and I
Yeah.
think that should
Yeah.
be recognized as well.
A lot of breakfast burritos, a lot of trash beer. It was good.
Yeah, I think I drank my limit for the year of Miller High Lives. I'm or with champagne of beer, whatever the hell
Yeah.
that beer is called.
That's a
Yeah.
champagne of beer. Yeah. Yeah, same. So, well, while we were there, we got to also watch some Cardinals. One of the things we want to talk about today is we're starting to see some real signs of life within the Cardinal offense, and we're going to talk about that. But I think, I have to start by talking about maybe the most ridiculous game that we've had of the year so far, and you got to watch it in a really unique setting.
Yeah, I mean, it was actually kind of ideal. I was flying back Sunday from St. Louis back home to Denver. And thank God first off, there's this very annoying thing. I'm obviously an MLB.TV subscriber. If you connect to, and maybe this is just truth for Southwest, so maybe it's a Southwest specific problem and I should change flight companies or airlines. That's what they're called. And you cannot stream on the MLB app, MLB.TV. I find that to be insane.
Yeah.
Anyways, it was on ESPN. It was Sunday Night Baseball, so I got to sit in my little seat. I had my aisle. I had my Diet Coke and my little airplane chips that I love so much. And I got to watch the whole game, which was an incredible game to be kind of stuck on an airplane watching on your iPad, with headphones. Yeah, I mean, where do we start on this game? I think maybe the two things or the three things I guess I want to call out is the old men. Is it three of the five oldest players in baseball were productive that night?
Yeah.
Wayno had a solid start. He went a little over 5 innings and was fantastic. Yadier Molina had his hardest hit ball of the Statcast era. He hit a home run at 107
Yeah.
that
He
went
hit the
over
shit
the
out of that.
Cardinals bullpen. That
Yeah.
he or the opposing team's bullpen. He absolutely destroyed that ball. I mean, obviously with that Statcast data that makes sense why I feel this way, but I can't remember him really squaring up a ball like that in a very, very long time. Just everything looked perfect. But I think the coup de grace, the highlight of the evening was our boy, first ballot Hall of Famer Albert Pujols going out there and getting three working man's outs out there, really going out there and grinding and throwing. He was probably sitting 55 around the zone, something like that.
He was painting those corners with his
He was.
like 65. I think he got up to 65 a couple times. But man, what a a mood change even across I think both teams, is a
Yeah.
massive blowout. What was it, 15-2 when they put Pujols out there, and the Giants are cracking up. Cardinals are cracking up. Big time shout out to Ali Marmol for letting that
Yeah.
happen. I don't know whose idea it was. I don't know if you've caught that in any interview or anything, but like just so funny and fun. Poole's out there having the time of his life. When he thought he induced the double play, he's got that huge
Oh
fist
yeah.
pump going. You could tell he's about to go buck wild. He was going to go and talk to Wayno about inducing a ground ball double play. But unfortunately, it wasn't. And some guys put some good swings on his softball pitches, and they pad their own numbers a little bit, but that was a ton of fun. And even
Can
in the top of the ninth, though, Luis Gonzalez, he's out there throwing like a 40-mile-per-hour eephus that was also hilarious.
yeah.
The whole inning was just goofy, and it was so much fun.
Yeah, I think. Well, I think a lot of different things. I think I like Gabe Kapler now. After we've watched him 2 series in the early season, I think I like Gabe Kapler. He used to kind of be annoying, and he seems to be having fun. And that game was fun, and he was showing personality. And I kind of think of him as this like severe butthole. I don't really, but he seems to have maybe lightened up a little bit. And outside of that, like, can you imagine Albert Pujols' first run with the Cardinals? Him pitching, him smiling on the field, him doing a post game interview with ESPN right after the game and laughing about that. I don't think I've ever seen, or at least when he was on the Cardinals, can ever remember him doing a post game interview with a national broadcaster like that. Um,
Yeah,
so
if
all
he
of this
was,
is
he
kind of
was saying,
amazing.
yeah, if he was doing one, he was just saying like, I play to win the game. I put a good swing on the ball.
I respect the game.
Whatever. Yeah,
The game respects me.
yeah, right. Game respect game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean we've talked about this kind of since he's joined. It's a totally different Pujols. Effective at times, not effective at times, but
Yeah.
he's definitely leading the league in old man smiles on the field right now because he's having a great time. And also like it,
Old man
it
smiles.
he's filling the role too because like your 26th man, your 27th man on the roster is likely who's going to be your the guy who pitches in a blowout game like this.
Yeah.
So they throw him out there. That's the role he's in. And he had fun, and now it's only him and Babe Ruth who have over 600 home runs and an inning pitched in the Major League Baseball history. So just racking up
Yeah.
those anecdote uh fun facts that'll show up in history books forever.
Hey, Shohei's only 500 plus career home runs behind him. He'll be knocking that door in a
Yeah.
decade and a half.
He might.
I He might. He actually might. I also think it's worth mentioning, talking about Pujols. He's got 8 walks against 8 strikeouts, and he's got a 133 OPS plus on the early season. Obviously, like very limited play, but he has been, I think, actually better than advertised. I think no Cardinals
Yeah.
fan can be really mad about that, especially the amount that he's played. I feel, and the attitude and the fun. What did you say? His old man smiles.
Old man smile.
I guess we like that.
it's
I
the it's
didn't know
the
that
it's
was
the
what I
big
wanted.
it's the new market inefficiency. The
Oh,
Oakland
okay.
Athletics are going to start signing a whole bunch of old dudes just for their smiles.
Oh my god! I real quick, I just want to shit on the A's. They saw that they had a game that had it was 2,800 fans, which was their
That's rough.
lowest since the ballpark is opened.
Yeah,
A's
that's rough.
suck. Their owner sucks. That's all I wanted to say.
Well, what did not suck, unlike the A's, was the Cardinals putting up 15 runs against the Giants, against Carlos Rodon. What I guess that was that game.
Yeah,
Comes in, he
you've
looking
said
like,
multiple times you're dark horse Cy Young candidate, or maybe
yeah,
not even that dark horse after a few starts.
yeah, it didn't take long for him to start showing up on things like that. And yeah, I'm a big believer in him. I thought what he did with the White Sox last year before getting hurt was just the sort of start of his future career breakout. And him going to the Giants, I thought was like the perfect landing spot for him.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what we were seeing up until the game against the Cardinals, where they just destroyed him. I mean, it was really incredible. And ultimately,
So
Cardinals.
do we give Jeff Albert credit for that? I know Cardinals Twitter and everybody likes to pounce on him. Do we give him credit when something like that happens, or is it just the players? I don't know.
Man, I don't know.
Am I
The
am I
the
just being
Jeff
a troll?
the yeah the yes the Jeff Albert thing. I don't know. The Cardinals' offense has been middling at best for several years now, so I would expect at some point, if he really is this like systematic, approach genius. Like I would have hoped that we would really start to see it pay off by now. But we also, last year we did see, the Tyler O'Neill breakout. We
Yeah.
saw Carlson in the back half of the season start to break out. We Edmund is a good hitter now. Like we've seen
Yeah.
success. Um, but I don't
Well,
know. I mean,
it's
I
that
think
silly thing of people want to they'll if you see Brendan Donovan and Tyler O'Neill and Wanya Pez and so on and so forth come up and hit, people never they just want to give the players credit. They don't want to give the coaches, and then when things go wrong, they don't want to blame
it's the
the.
coach.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's very silly. I was more just bringing that up to be obnoxious. I don't really believe it one way or the other.
Well, it is tricky. It is a very popular thing to bash Jeff
I
Albert,
see
and
it on Twitter all of the
all the
time. Yeah,
time. Yeah, and I don't feel like I am educated enough in like the impact that a hitting coach even has to really make my opinion on that. But my understanding of it, the reason for continuing to stick with him for years now, where hitting coaches are fired at will in the league, was that he has this like long-term plan, and part of it
right.
is supposed to like filter all the way down to the minor leagues. And yeah, I don't know, Juan Yepez seems legit, and he is absolutely a product of our minor league system. Brendan Donovan, like you said too, Edmund, pretty much everyone right now except for Goldie and Arenado. So
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I guess let's just dive into it a little bit further, right? Like since the month has flipped over in the early day. Well, I guess we're not. We're on May 18th, the day that we're
Yeah.
recording this. And since May, the Cardinals have the fourth best offense in the league, both leagues, by WRC plus. So something flipped. It's maybe it is Jeff Albert's fault, or maybe it's not. It doesn't really matter. But the Cardinals kind of come out swinging, and this is kind of it's not kind of fun. It's very fun. It is, Paul Goldschmidt has fully broken out. We
Mhm.
expect a bit of a slow start. We were talking about that last week, but we're never worried about him. And he's
Which
gone on to be an absolute monster.
I do have to say, Uh, I pretty heavily predicted a home run by Goldschmidt in that game
Yeah.
the night we recorded. Juan Yepez hit one. So I'm going to go ahead and say I was right.
Never
Um,
take an L, right,
never,
Nate?
never take an L. That's right. And yeah, Goldie's broken out. Arenado has continued to be really good. Not player of the month level that he was in April, but still hitting really well. Yepez
Well,
coming
he
up.
doesn't need to because
Yeah,
Goldie's doing that. He's got a 1,200 OPS in May. We have 10 days or so days left in May. Goldie might take that. And I
right.
think the thing that also note about Nolan is that he's been great. He's still everything's looking the same, but he's got a BABIP so far in the early. Sorry, I keep saying early in this part of the month that we're at of 188. So he's just hitting into some bad luck right now, which is going to happen. But it also when the rest of the team is
Yeah,
hitting and Goldie's doing what he's doing, it doesn't matter as much because he still
right.
brings the best defense in the league.
And that's obviously some regression from April where he had he sustained a higher BABIP, and that's just
Right.
part of what happens. But yeah, obviously having Goldie and Arenado in the lineup, you really only need one of them to be super hot to really maintain this offense. But really, they haven't been even when Arenado or even when Goldie wasn't crushing, he's still getting on base a lot. He's never been like the problem on the offense, right?
No.
But what we're starting to see is some of the problems, like we talked about last week, um, get a little bit better or aren't with the team right now. So the Carlson looking the best he's looked this season, starting to give some shades of what he looked like for really the last half of last year, looking like that real breakout player that we were all hoping
Yeah.
for.
Yeah, I mean, he's just not striking out like he was. I think his K rate in the month of May is below 15. He's walking a little bit, maybe not as much as we expect him to, but just seeing him not miss pitches and actually hit the ball with some oomph has been a huge change for him. I mean, that first month he was just so bad. There's nothing
Yeah.
really else to say about it.
Yeah. And then when you had him, Bader, and O'Neill, like all striking out in
Right.
every at bat, it's bad. And then Juan Yepez, he's still hitting really well.
He is.
Fits right in.
He
That's
looks great.
again,
I mean, there's
yeah,
like he looks exactly like what his minor league profile, kind of predicted him to look like. He's kind of doing the same thing. He's walking a little bit. He's spraying the ball all over the place. He sometimes hits the ball really, really hard or over the wall. This is I mean, I don't think you could have asked for much more from Juan Yepez coming up.
no, at 24 years old and really only one full year in the minors at any sort of high level. I think we should all and continue to be excited about Juan Yepez. And he's we're still seeing Dickerson a little bit, but not nearly as much as we would if it weren't for Yepez. And same with Pujols. It's allowing them to be still more thoughtful with their use of Pujols. So
Is
yeah,
is Brendan Donovan, is he going to be the reason that Corey Dickerson gets bounced off the 26 man or the 27 or whatever it is right now?
yeah, Donovan's the real story now, right? Yepez is fun and exciting, but he can't play shortstop like Donovan can, or play
No.
every position like Donovan can, or have that sweet, sweet flow. He's looking good out there, having a great time. Yeah, I mean, we talked about it last week. Um, the emergence of these young guys, and you still have Gorman in the minors striking out and hitting the ball super hard. I just don't see where the value is of having Dickerson right now. Even especially Alec Burleson. Like, there's
Yeah.
other guys down there that I think are probably offering you more competitive looks right now than Dickerson is. But they typically have a give these guys a longer leash, and so I don't think it's going to happen. I think if he continues to play like he is now, it won't be until June when they let him go. But it certainly seems like he's on that path, right? Like, it's going to take a pretty heavy turnaround, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And I think to turn the spotlight back on Brendan Donovan, I don't expect him to play at the degree that he's playing for much longer. The league is going to make an adjustment. But I think right now, he's got over 1,000 OPS. He has 9 walks in 18 games. That is incredible.
Yeah,
He's rocking a 27% walk rate right now. He's hitting the ball, and like you said, I think what I've been most surprised by, we expected watching him in spring training to have a good plate appearance and be a little stingy with his swings, which is always good and unbelievable to see in such a young player. But the defense, he looks good everywhere. He doesn't look like
yeah,
Nolan or Tommy everywhere, but he looks great. And I think the arm strength has surprised me a little bit. He's had a couple of throws where I've been kind of taken aback by how much giddy up is on him. So I mean, everything has been incredible, and I don't need to bring it up right now, but he's really helping my fantasy Cardinals draft that we did what
hey,
the
we're
Heroes and
gonna
Hatchlings draft that we had a
we're
few
gonna
weeks ago.
get to that. We're gonna get to that
I'm just
later.
teasing.
Okay,
I'm just
let's
teasing.
not
I
let's
like to,
not hop segments.
all right.
Um, But yeah, well, if you remember, I really thought he was going to make the roster out of spring just because of how much everyone talked about how much they loved his approach to everything that he does. And I think we're seeing that now. We were able to see it a little bit in spring, but it's hard to tell in spring, especially like a guy at his level. Like, is it just he's playing up in spring where there's a lot of factors that come into play there?
Well, Paul
Will it
DeYoung had a
actually
great spring too. Yeah. So it's like,
right?
how much weight do
Yeah.
you put on this?
But now when with the way it's been going, I do get it. I get why people were excited about him. This approach that he brings, it's fun. He's got a lot of energy and he's playing well. I think he's earned himself a spot as like the super utility player on the team. Maybe just the sharding, maybe just the. Oh, I hope it's not sharding.
If you can get paid for that, then sign me up.
Yeah, it happens. I think I'm
Oh,
sure.
there's that great story about Archie Bradley who he
Yeah.
sharded his pants on the mound and had to get taken out. Are you familiar with that story?
Yes, I am. Of course, I'm
It's
familiar with
so
that
good.
story.
If you're unaware of that, please Google that. Just Archie Bradley um,
Shart.
pants shirt.
Well, anyway, the starting shortstop. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah,
Dear God.
nailed it.
I mean, why wouldn't he be the starting shortstop right now? You know, I guess.
Yeah, to get Tommy over so Nolan Gorman can come up. But yeah, other than that, I don't see any reason. I think you can watching him and Sosa play shortstop. He's definitely a step back on the defensive spectrum, but the bat is clearly leagues above. Like even Sosa, who we've kind of rallied for
Right.
and campaigned for a little bit, but I'll take the slight step down at shortstop if we're getting these kind of ABs like a 1,000 OPS. He could play anywhere and be extremely valuable. So that's
Yeah.
playing it short is incredible.
Well, the team has obviously for a while now put a high value on defense, and it's fun. Having the best defense in baseball is a lot of fun as a fan.
Yeah,
Like the Cardinals winning 5 Gold Gloves last year. They could have won more even. It's just it's a really cool game to watch, and if you watch a full season like we do, you really see the impact of having incredible defense. That said, when your offense is continues to be in the bottom 10, bottom 15 in the league, you do wonder a little bit like, did the Cardinals overextend, over index into that
yeah.
defensive plus side of the equation? And I think I would be okay with the Cardinals making a few decisions at a percent reduction in range or whatever for a better plate approach after having seen the Paul DeYoung experiment for so long, or the ups and downs of like a Bader or now O'Neill. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I think that like the question to be asked, or the question to wonder about, is if you have a perennial Gold Glover at third, you have somebody who looks like that at second, you have another perennial Gold Glover at first. If you cut back a little bit on the defense at short, which obviously that is the most important defensive position on the field, or at least for sure on the infield, it like do those kind of wash out? Does it all kind does like are we robbing from Nolan and Tommy and Paul? Probably not, because I don't think it depends on how far of a step back is. Like if they put me at short and I could somehow hit 30 bombs a year or something like that, then no, the value isn't there. Also,
Why
yeah,
would
now
you
I know
use
what you're I know,
yourself as the example?
because I'm thinking
if
about
you
how bad I would be
if
at
it's
shortstop.
me,
Like
but also I can hit 30 home runs.
what I'm trying to say is the worst a defender that is not even major league, is not even
Yeah. Yeah.
recreational softball league worthy at shortstop.
Right.
Like if you're essentially just putting a gelatinous cube at shortstop, which would be my performance. If the ball hits me in the stomach, I could probably pick
Generous
it
of
up and throw it.
yourself, generous to call yourself a cube.
I don't know what
There's
that
some hard
means.
edges there.
A gelatinous oval, an egg shaped piece of gelatin at shortstop. Um, they obviously that's but Brendan
Yeah.
isn't that. He's like I said, I think we're taking a step back. Maybe his arm makes up for some of it.
He's
Um,
definitely not a gelatinous oval. What are we
he
doing
really
here?
really put me to the screws on that. I was just trying to make a point.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It just got deeper. I know what point you're trying to make. I
I
agree. It's
yeah,
not
and
that
also,
big of a
I thought
step back.
yeah, I thought you'd appreciate my D&D reference too, and you didn't care about that. You just need to make fun of me, but whatever.
I do appreciate it.
No,
Like instead of the classic like sword and shield inside of the gelatinous cube, there's like a baseball glove
there you go.
and a bat.
Some real fantasy baseball.
Mhm. Nice.
That was a bad joke.
I
Okay.
got I got me.
Yeah.
Ugh, all
Well,
right,
yeah.
we've fallen apart here. So it's not that big of a step back, is what you're saying. Like it could
It's
be
not that big
way
of a step
worse.
back.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think, like I said, if we had Matt Carpenter at third base, or Matt
Right.
Carpenter at second base, or something
Mhm.
like that, then
Matt
you'd be
Carpenter
much
at
more
first
worried about it.
base. Yeah.
But the fact that, yeah, and God, I think Matt might have been worst at first base. That was so hard to watch.
Yeah.
Although I love Matt Carpenter. No
Rest in
hate
peace.
towards Matt Carpenter. Yeah. So yeah, all that to be said, I think it all works, and we're fine,
Mhm.
and I'm happy to see it. Especially if he's hitting like the way he's hitting. It makes everything easy, right?
Yeah. So it's been fun. The Cardinal offense obviously has been a point of contention for a lot of this year, and they're doing that thing that feels like it's very Cardinals, where you'll follow up a 15 run explosion with like being shut out by like Trevor Williams from the Mets or
Right.
whatever, which is frustrating. But at the end of the day, we're seeing the things that we were hoping to see turn around. We really hope our tie guy can do it for the boys a little bit more. Breakout big hit in the game last night to break the tie in the ninth. So
Was that really a hit, though? I mean, I know it was technically a hit, but
maybe that's all he needs.
hey,
Good
this is a
outcomes.
lot of times what gets players out of a slump when they
Hey,
swing bunt and a guy mishandles a ball and the guy
Alraboski,
gets the
when
first.
did you get here?
I never understand that. Like, yeah. Anyways,
Well, if you're feeling really unlucky, if you're feeling like, man, everything is just going against me, something like
yeah,
that maybe can, I don't know. You can create a narrative out of every outcome. And, I generally avoid that stuff, but I don't know. It's a game winning hit is a game winning hit, right? Even
yeah.
if it was
No,
sort of silly.
no, and I'm just being obnoxious. But I think another thing to point out where you're talking about, it's been a little inconsistent. They can get blanked out by Trevor Williams. We're also seeing the Cardinals actually start to face real competition. With the Mets and the
Yeah.
Giants kind of back to back. That's a thing. And I was curious before I started talking, so I looked it up. Obviously the Cardinals are second in the Central right now. The Brewers have had the easiest schedule in the MLB. They are a 30 out of 30 as far as strength of schedule. The
Wow.
Cardinals are a little bit above them, not by much, but I think that should be pointed out. Like the Central is a weak division, so there are a lot of wins to be had. Um, but I think you can actually look at the team's value and where they stand right now against the Giants, against the Mets, and we got another Mets start tonight, which will be very exciting. Scherzer versus Hicks,
Yeah.
um, like
They,
two
they have
lunatic
looked,
people.
they have looked competitive, if not good, against the Giants, the Mets, and the Brewers
Yeah,
repeatedly now, which is the hardest competition that they've faced so far. Um, so yeah, I agree. I think this is what a team that is good but not great looks like. Periods of difficulty, whether it's the starting rotation or the lineup. Um, but it doesn't take much for it to click and for the team to look really, really awesome. So unless we have some fundamental breakouts in guys like Tyler or O'Neill, or Carlson really is what he looks like, or maybe Donovan really is what he's looking like. I'm expecting that this is kind of how the season is going to go. And the Cardinals will end right around that sort of 90 win mark that they had last year. Will that be good enough for the Central? I don't know. We'll see. The Brewers look pretty good, so we'll see.
they
Uh,
they do. But something you just to look through the Cardinals colored glasses and I think that they have a good pitching staff and everything like that. But man, they really are just one or two guys away, and maybe the Cardinals are too. I don't. I think I would argue against that with the Cardinals, but the Brewers are so top heavy in their talent.
yeah,
That one like Corbin Burns having a bad month puts them in a bad spot. I
yeah,
don't want anyone to get injured, but things like that, they're just kind of doing a tightrope walk. um, that being said, Yelich is playing well. Wong is playing well. They have players, but I
yeah,
have a lot of. I'm feeling very positive about where the Cardinals find themselves right now, while things aren't all clicking at
yeah.
this moment. So
Well,
that that's
it's. I
that's my
mean,
kind of view.
that's what I'm saying. Where this is sort of an inconsistent team right now, where different pieces are clicking at different times, which is allowing them to sustain, above 500, stay competitive, look good against some of these challenging teams. But it's the fact that like nothing, it's yet to all come together at the same time. Um, that like if they're able to do that, I think the Cardinals are as good as any other team in the league. But we just haven't seen exactly that yet. So let's move on, though. We got some bummer news about Alex Reyes. I guess at this point,
Womp womp.
yeah, I mean, it is what it is. it is the more normal thing for Alex Reyes at this point.
Yeah.
Continue to feel for the guy. What a electric arm, and seems like a cool dude. And we finally got a taste of it last year of what he could be. And I guess we'll just continue to wait and hope that he comes back at some point.
Yeah, I'll never stop hoping. Alex Reyes, like you said, not only like the arm, but the dude and everything just seems so great. But Marmal described the news as a quote, very discouraging, and noted that Reyes has, quote, been through a lot, hope he can make it back. That is
Not a
about
good,
the
yeah,
worst I've ever seen a manager respond to something that kind of makes it, in my mind, go from a bit of a nebulous return date to a bit of a, if he gives us innings this year, we're lucky. And, we talked
right,
about that in the early season episodes. Um, your expectations for Reyes and Flaherty, although this news isn't about Flaherty, should be, if they are playing for the Cardinals at some point this year, that's the win. And then obviously to see Ali say something like that, a guy who seems pretty positive. I mean,
yeah,
that to me, he's telegraphing to fans and folks that we may not see him this year, which is
yeah,
very sad because, he's the best.
yeah. Not a lot of news on Flaherty, but he seems to be recovering at the rate that you hope so. I keep seeing June targeted, and we're not that far away from June, so we might get Flaherty in the rotation soon. Which, I mean, I don't know where he goes. Maybe the Cardinals do a 6-man rotation. Give Hicks some time away, some piggyback starts or something like that. But one of the better outcomes so far is that, like, I think every person on the rotation has had ups and downs, but there's no one on the rotation right now that I would say shouldn't be there either. So
Yeah.
Flaherty coming back, gives you some options.
The soft underbelly of the Cardinals has looked like that, but like you said, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. This isn't going to be the reason the Cardinals don't win the Central or don't make the playoffs or something. They are serviceable enough, and the offense has been good enough, and the defense good enough to help pick these guys up.
Yeah,
Matt's. I'm ready for Matts to kind of put 3 or 4 good starts ahead of him, even if they're pulling him after 5. It's when he's consistent, he's good, and he's just
yeah,
been a little homer happy this year. I was watching a little bit of the Mets broadcast during the Mets start because I like their booth a lot, and Keith Hernandez was making a comment on how he can get a little righty inside happy and how that can kind of turn around on him. So maybe that'll be something that the Cardinals and Yachty, or I guess he's really been catching with or throwing with Kinzer. Uh, Recently, but maybe that's something they can recognize and just keep iterating on the plan, and we'll see the results. I have the faith in Matz. When we talked about his signing, I don't have any illusions of him being really more than a third or fourth starter. But
right.
if you could just stay consistent and not get blown up and not give up 7-8 runs, keep the Cardinals in games for 5-6 innings, that's all they need right now.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll continue to monitor Flaherty and hope he comes back healthy and gives a boost. But the rotation has been serviceable so far. So we've also got Sosa coming off the COVID IL, like in some sort of timeshare now with the whole middle infield.
Yeah.
And excited to see what he has to offer if he can rekindle something from last year. But at the very least, defensive premium, late game, something like that.
He's
Valuable
also
guy to
just
have.
fun to watch. Yeah, I just
Yeah.
like watching Sosa. Like he's demonstrative in the batter's box and on the field and
Yep.
smiling, and he's fast and he plays like a bat out of hell, and he gets hit all the time. I just like watch this. The team is better with Edmundo on the team.
Yeah. I agree. Well, inverse of that, Kramer Robertson sent back down. So
One
good for
plate
him.
appearance.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you make the majors, it's a triumph. It's a
Yeah.
personal triumph, a long story coming together. And we wish him the best of luck, and maybe we'll see him back. I suspect we will at some point. And finally,
High and by. Yeah.
yeah. um, Finally, we had a completion of a story we've talked about off and on, the O'Neill arbitration case. what a stupid system.
Yep.
You got to love a headline of Cardinals defeat Tyler O'Neill in arbitration. Um, you know,
And there was much rejoicing.
yeah, like cool, man. I'm so glad that the Cardinals defeated their own player in a
Right.
thing over a
Also,
small amount of money.
and I know the midseason thing, yeah, the amount of money I think is 700,000, which is a lot to you and me, but not a lot
Yeah,
to them and
yeah,
them. Um, but yeah, I mean, obviously, also having to do this whole process in the middle of the season because of the lockout is stupid. Defeating your own player is stupid. I know a lot of people are kind of piling on Tyler right now because he's had this super slow start. Um, I still have a lot of faith in the guy. We talked about it
right.
last week. He's still hitting the ball hard. I still think it's a good time to extend him. That seems pretty clear that that's not going to happen this season. I like the player a lot. I think the Cardinals should invest in him. He hits the ball hard. He plays great defense. He plays hard. Everything you want to like about him. And maybe he's a little bit streaky. Maybe he's having a cold start, but I'm definitely not ready to just write off the player.
Yeah, yeah, me neither. Um, Yeah, and again, you can make a narrative out of anything. I am curious if this was weighing on him at all. I could imagine it would be, and maybe now that it's done, one way or another, he can get over it or let it, get have it put behind him. I don't know. That's of course like telling a story about someone that we have no idea and we'll never know if it had an impact. But I'm sure it can't feel good as a player going through that. And again, just that headline was like, oh man, this system sucks. Like this sucks.
Yeah,
So
it's yeah. I mean, you and a team of like baseball and legal experts are explaining to a player why they are not good.
right.
That's
And
stupid.
then
Yep.
they are expected to go out that night and be good,
Hey
So
Tyler, we all know you can't hit X pitch. This is why you don't deserve this extra
yeah.
$700,000. Okay, well, I guess I'm going to go try to
Go
play as hard as I can and win a championship for you guys.
yeah. Yeah, it's stupid. So it's
And
done
also,
now.
like, obviously, their jobs aren't like our jobs, but can you just imagine your manager like sitting you down and like pointing out all your weak points and then saying like, "All right, get after it."
Yeah, yeah. Especially after a season he had last year. Instrumental in the success that the Cardinals had last year. So
One hundo p.
100p. Okay. Well, let's let's just go right on from that. We've got some more fun stuff to talk about, but before we do that, we want to remind everyone that this podcast is supported by Patreon or on Patreon. If you like the show, want to support it, support the show's continued growth, consider donating to us via Patreon. All patrons at any level get access to our private bird scored. That is our Discord where we talk about the games, talk about the Cardinals, sometimes prep for the stupid games that we're going to do on the show, all sorts of different things. It's small right now, but we're really having fun in there. Shout out to those that are there currently. You can find that on patreon.com/talking about birds. You can also leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. We love it. We truly appreciate it. And we thank each of you who have done or will take the time to do that. Ben, why don't you and Mona, Ben has his cat on his lap now. Why don't the two of you tell us where people can find us online?
She's helping. Yeah, follow us on Twitter at Talk About Birds. You can follow us on Instagram at Talking About Birds. And you can also email us any questions, thoughts, comments about the show, about us, most specifically about Nate. Nate sous vides his bratwurst before he throws them on the grill. That's something that I learned this weekend.
Yeah.
So just, maybe if you want to ask Nate about meat preparation, his sous vide, case sausages, these are all things that he's interested in. And I would even say passionate. You can email those questions in at talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. And yeah, I would just like to say we're also on Spotify. So if you prefer to listen to us there, hit us up on Spotify, and word of mouth. Tell your friends if you're enjoying this podcast. We really appreciate the word of mouth nature and the sharing it. And honestly, just go grab your parents or your friends' cell phones and subscribe and like, and we'll take that. We don't even need the listeners. We'll just take the extra subs
We want the
and go from there.
numbers. Yeah.
But thank you all. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of Twitter, we for our next segment, we're actually going to answer a question that came into us via Twitter. This is such a great question. We decided we wanted to devote some time to it on the show because I think it's interesting and it might be helpful to other people as well. So this tweet came into us from at Akira OC. They said, "Hi guys, my family and I are visiting St. Louis this summer and planning on catching a game against the Cubs. Where should we sit? What should we do? What makes for the best family-friendly pregame, game, and postgame experience in your opinion?" Went
It's a
on
lot
to add
there.
some, yeah, there's a lot there, and went on to add some more context about him and his family. And first of all, thank you for the question. Really, really good question, and excited for you and your family to come to St. Louis and check out a game, summer game against the Cubs. I mean, can you get any better than that?
It's
So
baseball heaven.
it really is. So I looked up a little bit in preparation for this, and I'm just kind of assuming that this would be tied around a weekend, and the series. There's a weekend series in St. Louis against the Cubs at the end of June, and both of the weekend games, the Saturday and Sunday games, are day games. So that has kind of um, influenced my answer here. Now, I don't know the age of the kids, but I'm going to assume some young, and I think there was, based off of the context, probably one kid that's in like the 12 or 13-year-old range. So um, I'm also thinking, when thinking about this question, someone who doesn't come to St. Louis very often, bringing their whole family, touristy is good, right? You want to do those things that are like big time St. Louis events. So I've thought a little bit about this, and I have some ideas. Ben, have you been, preparing for this as well?
Of course I have. And obviously the answer is go to the top of the arch and eat Lion's Choice.
And then get a big old Emo's pizza and slide down the arch on it. Um,
Yeah, no, I think I have some plan. I think I have the added benefit of not, having not lived in there in 8 years or so now. Um, the things that I want to do when I go back home are
yeah.
the things that are on the top of my list.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and start, and then you can jump in here, Ben. So we're trying to give our ideas on sort of like the ideal St. Louis Cardinals focused trip. So assuming you're coming in for that series and it's a day game, and I think my answers would kind of apply either way, but I'm kind of building this around a day game. So I think you're coming in for lunch. I think you hit up lunch before you go to the game. Of course, you could always eat at the game, but to me, that just piles onto whatever you've already eaten. You can go and gorge yourself at the stadium. I'm always getting nachos, but you probably want something good before you go to the game, especially if it's a 1:15 game. You want to maybe have an early lunch. I'd recommend go and check out the City Foundry, which is a new spot that's only been
I've
around
been
for,
there.
yeah, you have been there. It's only been around now for, I think, about a year or even less. It is essentially it's a food hall. So think of a mall food court, but instead of your Sabaros and your Taco Bells and your teriyaki chicken place, um, and your
I like all of these
Chick-fil-A's
things.
and your
You're
Chipotle's and your Charlie's cheesesteaks, your Panda Expresses,
five more.
your McDonald's. Um,
My mall has a
your
Popeyes in the food court.
Really, man, when
Yeah.
I worked in a mall for like 3.5 years. So I'm just listing off the like the West County Mall food court. Anyway, so the City Foundry is a food court, but instead of um, you know your McDonald's, your Taco. No,
Oh my god.
it's all local
Also,
restaurants.
it's a food hall is what they call it. That's the
Yeah,
updated branding. It's a food hall.
right. So it's all local restaurants, local spots, owned and operated either independently as just the sole experience of that restaurant or like extensions of restaurants that are all around St. Louis. You've got tons of options. So no matter what your family likes, I'm sure they can find something that they like there. It's probably going to be a little pricey, but the food should be good and everyone can find something that they like. And no matter what you're eating, you're getting something from a St. Louis group. A new pizza place just opened up in there that I've yet to try, but I'm very
Mm.
excited about. I've had great poke there. They have a Calbi taco shop, very, very popular taco place here in St. Louis. So you've got everything you could possibly want. It's a big space, plenty of room. It'll probably be pretty hopping on a Cardinal game day, but that's cool too. You're there, everyone's wearing their red, Cardinal red or whatever, getting ready to go to the game. So that's where I would do lunch. From there, you can hop on a nearby metro station. There's one right there to get down to the game. Or you might be driving. That's fine too. Either way, you can go into the game, have a good time at the game, um, get some little buds, little cheeseburgers that they have. I'm personally getting the nachos, but uh, I think we'll talk about seats in a minute. But after the game, I'm thinking you want to go and do some sort of St. Louis institution. So either the City Museum, which will be packed on a Saturday, but that is like the St. Louis experience, especially if you have kids. I think it's a fantastic place to take your kids. Um, or head down to the new Union Station, big Ferris wheel, tons of little activities you can do with the family. That's all new or new-ish at least, and I think you'll have a great time there with your family. And then for dinner, you head over to the hill and hit up one of the classic Italian places. I love Zia's. Ragazzi is also a great option. Or if you want something with a even broader menu, something like Antonino's, we've got good pizza on the menu as well. And some fantastic toasted raviolis to end the night. So,
Yeah, I don't know what almost any of that stuff is, but sounds good.
yeah.
Sounds like a good plan. Um,
Um,
well, so I guess after hearing you talk, I realize that as you being the kid haver on the podcast and me having being the non-kid haver on the podcast, I think I was angled a little bit differently, but I'm going to just answer the way that I would like to do it. And I think it's
yeah.
kid friendly enough. But make your own choice. I say you go to Soulard, go down to Soulard, do the brewery tour. I know that a brewery tour is probably not a kid focused thing, but there are cute dogs. There are Clydesdales, and I think it's great. Am truly a big fan of the brewery tour. It's something that me and my fiance used to do very regularly just to kind of get out of the house. And I just love the tour and
Yeah.
love
I went
walking
on a
around the old
brewery.
Anheuser-Busch buildings.
I did the brewery tour as a non, I was gonna say as a non-drinker, but as a kid,
Yeah.
is more apt, and it can be interesting. It just depends on what your kids are into.
Yeah.
It
Also,
can
you
be
get a
interesting
couple of
though.
free beers.
Yeah,
And then I would suggest, you're in that part of town. My favorite barbecue spot in St. Louis is Bogart's, which is just right down the street from Anheuser-Busch. You're also very close to Blue City Deli, which is probably my favorite sandwich shop in St. Louis.
yes,
Again, I'm not sure how kid friendly those places are, but they're very good. And then what I would suggest is, and I guess we'll get into the stadium after this, but what I would suggest you do after the game is you got to go check out Ballpark Village. It is a little Disney-fied. It is a little like, it's kind of a weird thing, but I do think it's good to see just because it is a massive, like, a square block of Cardinal stuff. There is plenty of outdoor space. There's a huge bar and restaurant inside. If you want to pay a little bit, you can go to the Cardinals Museum, which is really cool. But I mean, it's basically just this giant monolith to baseball and the
yeah,
Cardinals and a little bit the Blues, and it's kind of amazing.
yeah. I meant to
I've not
mention
been
ballpark.
to.
I meant to mention Ballpark Village as well, and even just the area out front, I do think is pretty
Yeah,
kid friendly. There's if it's not too crowded, there's like a bags game or like washers and stuff, and just a big open space that you can feel reasonably safe with your kids running around, and you can be posted up at a picnic table or whatever. And yeah, it is. I mean, it's Cardinal heaven. You are surrounded by Cardinal stuff.
Yeah.
It's great. It is
And
it
then
is definitely like if you're going to baseball game every week, you're not going to Baseball Village or Cardinal whatever Ballpark Village. I got there. You're not going every game, but I think it's been a positive impact
yeah.
on the stadium experience.
And Nate brought up St. Louis Institution City Museum, which I'll co-sign that because that is an amazing place to be. The St. Louis Institution that I added was got to go to Ted Drew's. It's a little bit
Yeah,
out of the way, but going to Ted Drew's after a Cardinals game, everybody's wearing their red and white is so much fun. You kind of just stand in the parking lot, lean on your car, and suck down a bunch of frozen custard. That is another place that I try to hit every time I'm back home, and I love Ted Drew's.
yeah, yeah, classic. And you're gonna show up, and the line is gonna look like absurd, but they move quick. So you normally don't have to wait as long as you think you might when you're getting there. So, some blend of this. I'd also recommend. Ben mentioned a couple good lunch spots for Blue City. Also, my favorite sandwich place in St. Louis, or any of the uh, barbecue options. I got to go back to the hill though, and mention Joya's. One of the fun things about Joya's
Joy's
uh,
is so good.
is that it's also the original location. It's across the street from Berra Park, which is named after the Berra family of Yogi Berra.
Hey,
And
boo boo!
yeah, yeah, that one too. Yogi Berra grew up in that area. This park is named after his family. You get a fantastic sandwich, hang out in the park, have a real baseball history experience here in St. Louis. I think any number of these
Yeah, that hot
things.
salami is
Oh my god!
unbelievable.
I
I
had
dream about hot salami sandwiches.
I had the trio. That's my order the other day. You get it get it with Provel cheese on garlic cheese bread. I mean, yeah, of course I
Decadent.
shaved a month or two off my life, but that sandwich is so good.
Mm.
So there's no shortage of good food and good things to do in and around the ballpark. I think we could talk for a while about other things that you could do, and would love to hear other ideas. So tweet at us with things that you think Akira OC and his family should do. But I guess let's talk about the actual ballpark experience a little bit. So talked about tickets, talked about seating. This is obviously there's a lot of personal preference that's going to come into this decision making, and then also to a degree budget. A weekend game against the Cubs, it's probably going to be the most expensive series of the summer, or at least one of the most expensive series of the summer. We don't get a lot of at home Cubs across the whole weekend. So be you have to consider that when you're making your purchase. So I'll tell you what I like to do. This is considering having kids. Um, I'm a fan of the bleachers when you have kids for a couple reasons. One, uh, big connected bench seats. I think it's just more like practical, especially if you have small children. It's just a little bit easier to give them a little bit of extra space, allow you a little bit more extra space. I think people are more understanding too of children out in the bleachers. It's a more comfortable area where you might be moving kids around a lot. Ideally, if you get a bleacher seat like on that aisle, so they have plenty of room. And back behind the bleachers is the big pavilion area. So you've got food and picnic tables and all sorts of places where your kids kind of get up and run around if the game starts to get a little boring. I would recommend left field bleachers because you want to see that jumbotron. And if you're in the right field bleachers, it's back up behind you. You can't really see it. So I like the left field bleachers. Um, that said, late June, St. Louis,
Yeah, dude, you're frying this guy out.
it's gonna be hot. So,
I
but different
aggressively disagree with you.
well, different people have different preferences, right? Maybe he
Well,
loves the heat. Maybe maybe the family wants
no, nobody loves the
someone
St. Louis
people
Heat.
sit there every game. So
Well, of course they do. But I'm spending someone else's money, so I would suggest you don't do that. I would
yeah,
suggest that you sit relatively behind home plate, because then you get the whole skyline in front of you. You can see the arch kind of in the background, and the hotel, Holiday Inn, or what? There's not a Holiday Inn, the
Wow, one
Hilton.
of you. Yeah.
Uh, I would say, again, since I'm spending somebody else's money, it's not my own. I'd say go get that club level, try to aim for
So
behind home plate, and
so
enjoy your life.
that's my next recommendation. If you're not like the bleachers thing is particularly about having space for kids and room for
Ugh.
people to get up and run around and whatnot. Yeah, I know. The seats I also really like are the Redbird Club. And now these can get a little bit pricey depending on the game. But they are going to give you that it's not the Redbird Club is like the bottom level of the club seats, if that makes sense. Normally when you think of club, you're thinking of those like all inclusive things like that. That's not
Oh,
what
those
this
are
is.
those are boxes.
Yeah. Well, there's like Diamond Club and stuff like that, but Redbird Club is it's like the
Maybe Akira's a big money baller.
maybe. So then whatever. Fucking get green seats behind the But I like the Redbird Club because it's generally more reasonably priced, but you get good seats that are going to be covered. So if it's really, really hot, you're still going to be okay. And right behind you is like an air conditioned area with, your bars and your
The
nacho
bathroom lines
stands,
are shorter. The food
bathrooms
lines
right
are
there.
shorter. Yes,
Yeah.
that is the move.
That's where I really like when I want to have a really ensure that I'm having like a nice experience, especially in the middle of the summer. I'm looking at Redbird Club, but again, these will probably be pricey for a Cub Cardinal weekend series. Outside of that, if you're just looking for standard seats, third base line or behind home plate, like Ben said, because of the way the sun sets, you'll ensure you'll at least be in the shade more readily on that side of the stadium.
Yeah,
And you
I
can,
will pay us, and again, I'm spending somebody else's money. I will pay a premium to not be sitting in that St. Louis sun.
yeah,
Also, you know what? I'm just going to say, Akira, you're going to one game a year. It sounds like ball out, just ball out. I want to see you in the green seats. Send us a selfie. Eat a steak and have some champagne. And I say just go as hard as
hell yeah.
possible. Yeah, max out your
Run
credit cards
on,
and all that good
run on the
stuff.
field,
Yeah, get arrested, get
get
tackled,
arrested.
get thrown in jail and the hospital at the same time. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. So I hope this was helpful to you and anyone else is, thinking about coming out to St. Louis. If you have more like specific requests, there's a type of food that you like or a type of activity that you're looking for between Ben and I, we can probably come up with something. Or I'm sure our friends on Twitter or in the Bird Scored might be able to help as well. So thanks again, Akira. We hope you have a great time. Cool. Well, let's move on to our next section. We're gonna again talk a little bit more about some things that are happening around the league. Ben, what do you want to talk about first?
Yeah, let's get the nasty news out of the way first. First, we'll talk really quickly about Brewers reliever JC Mejia gets suspended for 80 games for PEDs. He's kind of middling reliever, but that is a noteworthy news in the Central.
Yeah,
I don't think there's too much to talk about outside of just the fact that that's happening. A
it's always
chink in the
crazy to
armor.
me. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like I don't know. The fact that people are still getting busted for it makes me think, it's still not um, the um, uh, the stick, so to speak, to doing PEDs still does not exceed the
Yeah.
value of the carrot.
They
And
should
so,
double. They should just
yeah,
double the punishment. It should be a whole season for the first time, and
yeah,
then 2 seasons for a second time. And I bet that will do it because that'll start knocking people out of the game. And if they really want to get rid of it, that's what they'll have to do.
yeah,
Another unfortunate suspension for a much more unfortunate reason. Matt Harvey gets a 60-game suspension for participating in the distribution of opioids. Obviously, if you've been paying attention to the Tyler Skaggs and everything that's been going on with the Angels story, he got kind of wrapped up in that.
yeah,
And was, actively participating in handing those things out and essentially being the plug, being the hookup for guys. So, I don't know. I think this one's a lot more complicated than somebody getting busted for PEDs. Like, obviously, Matt Harvey was not in a great spot. There's these different stories about him having like coke benders and then pill benders and all this stuff. And I don't really want to weigh in on that because it seems to be hearsay and there's probably some truth to it, but kind of just a sad story. And Matt
Yeah.
Harvey's story is kind of just developed into the sad story. And I hope that
He was Batman.
he was, I
Remember?
am the knight. Yeah. I've kind of gone from being like, whoa, Matt Harvey is going to be the best pitcher of this generation to what has happened to kind of thinking he was a bit of a scumbag to now kind of fully turning and being like, wow, I hope he just can have a normal year and get healthy and pitch
Yeah,
somewhat effectively and get out of all this stuff. Cause
it
it's
sucks.
just been a
Yeah.
rough go, and there's nothing. There's no one's taking solace in the fact that this kind of thing is happening. So I hope it's a lesson learned. Opioids are a problem everywhere, and baseball's not immune to that. And I don't know. It's just sad.
Yeah.
Um, let's talk about something that I find much more entertaining and actually funny. Hunter Green, who is this superstar kid for the Reds, he's been maybe the only bright spot for the Reds in this season. Although, I mean, I don't know, how
Oh,
do you qualify this? He had an amazing but horrible moment. He threw ostensibly a no hitter. Lost the game to the Pirates. If you guys were paying attention to that, essentially what happened was he walked the bases loaded. Key Brian Hayes hit what resulted in a fielder's choice. Run scored. That was the only run in the game. And the Reds, this is just the way their season is going,
this is,
right?
yeah, it's the most Reds.
They have their superstar prospect who throws a 101 mile an hour fastball from a starting pitcher, and they lose the game.
Yep.
Which is, I look at this was the sixth time this has ever happened in Major League history where no hits have resulted in a win.
Yeah. Like one of the magic elements of the game of baseball. You can win a game without actually getting a hit. It's pretty incredible. I mean, Hunter Green should feel good about what happened, his contribution. He ultimately, he went 7 1/3, right? And then it was there was one reliever included, and they
Yeah,
only end up going, it's 8 innings of no hit ball because,
right.
the opposing team didn't have to throw
No,
in the
no point for
bottom.
that. Exactly.
Yep. But I mean, it feels like the cherry on the top of a horrible Reds season, and it's only
Yeah.
May. So who knows? Maybe this will be a moment where like they come back from it, and we all look back at this moment and say, "Oh, this was rock bottom for the
Yeah.
for the Reds."
Fangraphs, they put out a power rankings thing, and they have like a team rating metric that they use. And I don't need to get into it, but the top teams in the leagues are sitting at a 160, 170. They had the Reds at like a 22. They are just a joke. They're barely a major league team. It is horrible, horrible. Question for you. Okay, let's say if somebody throws 9 innings of no hit ball, they go into the 10th inning, they're still starting. The zombie runner gets from second base to home. They score without a hit, lose the game. Is that still a no hitter?
I think it is. I don't think they've. What I understood is why this wasn't being called a no hitter is because it didn't go 9 innings.
Right. Which
Nothing.
I can align with that a little bit.
Yeah,
I'm on board.
yeah. Nothing
You
about
lost.
the and same reason why the 7 inning games last year weren't called official no hitters. So I think that like
That
that
I
is.
actually think is horseshit. I don't like
I do
that.
too. I agree with it. I agree with you that I think that's not the player's fault, right? They pitched, they no hit as to the extent that they were capable to in that game,
Right.
right? But in this case, like they could have gone to 9. Their team just was horrible and had, you know, did what they do this year. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that this is just an official ruling that we could look up, but I would expect that that would be called still a no hitter. I don't think you have to win for it to be considered a no hitter.
Yeah, I would count that as a no hitter, but yeah,
Yeah.
we could probably look that up. Yeah, the last thing I wanted to hit up on league news, Bryce Harper, who has gotten really, really hot recently, and he's had a great 2 weeks or so. Really, really playing well for the Phillies right now. He has a injury to his elbow, and he is not going to be allowed to throw for 4 weeks plus. And the reason I bring that up is because that means that the Phillies experiment of going all gas, no brakes,
Yeah.
all offense and no defense. Their best defensive outfielder is now going to be forced to DH
Is their DH?
unless he wants to somehow, I don't know, pass the catches, or once he catches the ball, pass it off to another fielder or something. I don't know. But they are in a position where they have no choice but to play Kyle Schwarber and Nick Castellanos in the corners of the outfield. And I, for one, am here for it. I'm very
Yeah.
excited to see how this plays out. Dave Dombrowski, what the hell are you doing? Good luck, I guess.
Yeah, it's very funny. Of all the guys that has to go forced into DH now, of course it's Harper, so they can't rotate around like they were. I mean, they're having an okay start to the season,
Sure.
but they're getting blown away by the Mets, and the Braves are probably better than them too. So they needed everything to break the right way for this to work, and so far, it has not. So uh, we'll
No, it
see. I
really
mean,
hasn't.
Harper's one of my favorite players, so I hope that he can stay healthy and stay in the lineup because they're saying he might need
I
Tommy John, which would suck.
Yeah, that would obviously be a bummer. But Shohei played with this for a while, and before he
Yeah,
got his surgery, I we'll see what happens. Yeah, obviously him not being a pitcher helps, but
right.
yeah, never good when you're being told not to use your elbow for 4 weeks. And
Yeah, I can't
obviously,
believe that you don't need that for hitting either. I mean, I
that
get
is
it.
exactly
It's,
yeah. How is that possible?
I don't know. You just don't need that part of your arm.
I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Well, cool. So that'll wrap up our league news segment. This week for our sort of stupid game, we're actually going to check in on a thing we did at the beginning of the season, the episode right before the start of the season. We started a game called Draft Day Heroes and Hatchlings edition, and today we're going to check in on that game and see how each team is doing.
Yeah, and I guess to add further explanation, if you didn't listen to that episode, Nate and I each got to draft 3 guys from the 26-man roster and then 3 guys that were in the minor leagues. And
Yeah.
the goal to see who has the most cumulative WAR, according to Fangraphs, at the end of the season. Money's on me. I'm good.
Yeah. So I'm going to recap our the draft choices that we made, and then I've looked up the numbers. Ben has not
Wow.
seen them yet,
No.
and I'm going to see first how Ben is feeling before I actually share the numbers. So to remind everybody, here's the teams that we drafted. So with the first overall pick, Ben took Paul Goldschmidt. I then
Smart.
took Nolan Arenado. Ben then took Tyler O'Neill. I took Dylan Carlson. Then it went Harrison Bader to Ben, Adam Wainwright to me, Brendan Donovan to Ben, Nolan Gorman to me, Johan Oviedo to Ben, Juan Yepez to me, Alec Burleson to Ben, and then Matt Liberatore to me.
Wow.
So to recap, Ben's team is Paul Goldschmidt, Tyler O'Neill, Harrison Bader, Brendan Donovan, Johan Oviedo, Alec Burleson. For me, it was Nolan Arenado, Dylan Carlson, Adam Wainwright, Nolan Gorman, Juan Yepez, and Matt Liberatore. So how you feeling now, Ben? How do you feel about your team?
Obviously, I feel pretty good. I am. I have all the faith in Tyler O'Neill. Still, I'm not off that train yet. But he has been not great. So he's definitely not helping my team in that respect. I believe he has negative WAR right now because he has been, unfortunately, that bad. But we were talking about earlier, Goldschmidt is absolutely on fire right now. MVP candidate level on fire. So is Nolan Arenado. I'll admit that. But really, the feather in my cap in this early going is Brendan Donovan, who's come up and just been absolutely incredible. Not to mention, Bader, who, the reason I took him is because of how high his floor is, just because of the
Right.
defense. And, it doesn't hurt that him and Tommy are leading the league in stolen bases, which adds to that WAR accumulation as well. So I'm feeling pretty good. Actually, I was I thought we might have this chat, and I was kind of looking up some of the players earlier. Johan Oviedo has not clicked in yet in AAA, so we'll see how that continues to play out. I have the faith in the kid, but I think he has like a 7 ERA in AAA right now. That being said, Burleson is he's playing well, so maybe he'll get the call up. Maybe they'll need some more left-handed oomph, but we'll see. So I feel pretty good about where I sit. And you suck, so I just kind of
Yeah,
that's where I'm
there's
kind of
that.
sitting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's an inherent advantage. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So your Brendan Donovan pick obviously is working out. He was so far of the minor league selections that we made, he is performing the best.
hell yeah.
He actually is third overall on our list of all of the players drafted so far is Brendan Donovan.
That
Um,
that that is good for me, but bad for the Cardinals.
Not great. So I will go ahead and go down to the numbers now, those who have contributed. So Paul Goldschmidt coming in at 1.4 Fangraphs for. Tyler O'Neill, negative 0.3.
Yeah,
Not great.
only way is up from here.
Yep. Harrison Bader, 0.6. And Brendan Donovan, 0.7. So,
That is shocking right there. The fact that
yeah.
Brendan Donovan has been more valuable according to Fangraphs than Bader is insane.
Yeah. And then Oviedo and Burleson obviously at a 0, bringing your total so far on May 18th to 2.4.
Let's go.
Now for my team, I understand that you're excited about Goldschmidt. I am. We all are. But if we're talking
Yes,
MVP right now,
Nolan was a good pick. Yes, you're very good job.
Nolan Arenado 2.1.
Yeah,
We both have
Studley.
not been great on our second picks with our outfielders. Dylan Carlson coming in at a hot 0.
Woof.
Better than O'Neill, but
I would have put a large sum of money when we did this draft that Dylan Carlson would not have a 0 F4 at this point. Like I would have put a large sum of money.
yeah. Adam Wainwright 0.5.
Let's go. Old
Nolan
man smiles.
Man smiles. Nolan Gorman 0, but the only time, he's coming
Impending.
up. Yep.
It is happening. He is inevitable.
Yep. He is Legion. Juan Yepez 0.5.
Okay. All right. I actually expected that to be a little higher.
Yeah. Well, I think that he's not
DHing,
getting.
yeah.
Yeah, he's not getting any defensive boost there. And Matt Liberatore obviously at 0. So your final number was 2.4. Mine is 3.1. So
yeah, Nolan's back is creaking and aching. He is in agony because of what he's doing for your team right now.
The amount that he's leading Goldschmidt by right now is exactly the amount that I'm leading you by. So
there you go.
Yep.
I'm not even going to be mad about that. I hope.
Well,
Nolan
you had
just
the
keeps
first
it up.
overall pick,
Yeah.
So you went with, yeah.
Who's hotter right now is Goldie. Goldie and Nolan, they might be passing the baton back for Cardinals MVP this year, and maybe MVP. Although Manny Machado's having an insane start at the season as well.
Stupid Manny Machado. Yeah. So we'll continue to monitor that. I don't think we'll necessarily look every month, but I thought this was a good time to check in on
because you're
that.
winning. You're like, let's take a look at these
just
numbers.
Lock
take
in
a look
an episode where I'm in front.
Yeah.
And let's seal
Never
this
take
now.
An L.
Never take an L. DJ Khaled. All right.
Boo.
I hated that. So that will be everything for this episode. So
this is the part of the episode where we are done. Thank you all.
This is it. And
I know I am still talking, but believe it or not,
I checked out a long time ago. Thank you all, as always, for listening. We truly appreciate it. Thank you to @AkiraOC for your fantastic question. If you have a question and you want us to talk about it on the show, or maybe in the Bird Squad, tweet at us or join the Bird Squad through Patreon. And another great week of Cardinal baseball in front of us. And until then, we'll talk to you next week. Go Cards.
Thank you. Jesus Christ.
If you have an idea for the opening, wait, no, that would have been underneath. Jesus Christ. If you have an idea